Do you remember the death of Superman? I remember being a huge deal back in 1992. I mean, an iconic superhero. Heck, the first superhero was dead. It was all over the news even.
Superman will die November 18th at the hands of a villain named Doomsday.
Man of Steel has proven to be as vulnerable as the mere mortals who looked up to him.
75.
Has the Man of Steel met his match? An editor at DC
Doomsday will kill Superman.
And nobody knows what his Kryptonian...
Who can we look up to if not
I
Superman?
think they do it just to get money, and then like he's gonna revive in 2 days.
And you were right, lady. Why can't we stick to anything? That same year we had Batman Returns, Tim Burton's great take on Batman. It's just something about the mood of the movie. Your nose could be... There we go. In that following year we had the Super Nintendo version of the game by Konami. Fuck you, Konami! And the year after that, we had the death and return of Superman for the Super Nintendo by Blizzard. And since we've already done the sin of comparing Sega Genesis versus Sega Genesis, it's time to come full circle and put the Super Nintendo versus itself. And of course, we have the movie, right? Batman v Superman. Has someone heard about this? Is it any good?
Round 1.
Story. I do like when games follow the story they are based on, especially when you like the original work. And both these games do follow their stories they are based on, with small deviations of course. Batman Returns follows Batman trying to save Gotham from the Penguin, all of this while having encounters with Catwoman, even when you save her, just like in the movie.
Take one step closer, Mr. Man.
There's actually a lot of scenes that are recreated in this game really well. Fucking A! There's even cutscenes taken directly from the movie. In Death and Return of Superman, you also get iconic shots from the comic, and it follows the first fight against Cluster and the Underworlders just like in the comic. Then we move to the fight against Doomsday. Unfortunately, we don't have the Justice League fighting with Superman against Doomsday when he had the original suit in which he was contained on. Aw, look at that, Doomsday ain't that bad. Birdie, no! And so that original part is actually cut out from the game, which is a shame in my opinion, because it's really cool to see Doomsday kicking the shit out of everyone with just one hand. And the game continues all the way up until the return of Superman to complete the saga. Batman Returns have small narratives in between stages, and so does Superman. But what about the endings? Oh fuck me, is that type of game. You know, that game that you need to play it in hard in order to get the good ending. The game is already hard as balls. I played it on normal thinking, well, I'm no expert, so let's do the normal way, which is supposed to be the developers, how they intended the game to be played, and then if you want, just have a challenge on hard, but fuck me, I'm not playing this in hard. Death and Return of Superman actually has an ending in comparison. And this is of course at the beginning of the game, you just don't have a way to select difficulty, which is fine by me. That way I get to experience the full game even if I don't want to master the game, which is fucking hard as balls as well by the way, but more on that on the gameplay section. That said, which game gets the point?
Batman! I thought I heard a kitty in a tree that needed my help!
Why does someone that can blow away a galaxy with a sneeze occupies himself by saving little cats from trees?
But I flew all the way!
Look, you are not needed here, okay? Plus, I already took care of it.
Why would you?
Because I'm Batman.
I know that. I'm just wondering.
I'm Batman.
Okay, that doesn't even make...
I'm Batman.
Are you?
I'm Batman.
Okay, that's it.
I'm Batman.
Superman gets the point, not only because I was able to experience an actual ending, but rather the story itself comes from a much iconic time in Superman's history compared to Batman's. Granted, there are several things missing from the comics like the bad guy Mogul and even Green Lantern. Both of them actually had a very important roles in the comic, but it's still a retelling of a much bigger story that I personally enjoyed more.
Round 2.
Presentation. It's really cool to see that both games really take homage to the original source. Death and Return of Superman is bright and colorful like the comics, and Batman Returns is just dark and grim like the movie. We already saw that both games presents scenes from the comic and the movie respectively. I think Batman just looks a bit better. Not only does the cutscenes are done better, but the small stuff like how the lighting affects the scene or how we have snow falling in the foreground. Also, the backgrounds are just way better and directly from the movie. Granted, the comic can have very few backgrounds going on, but that's just the nature of it. Batman's are just much better. Even the sprites, I find them to be much more appealing. They even have a lot more detail if you look closely. Overall, Batman's game is just a better looking game. But what about the music and the sound? Let's hear some tracks back to back. Batman's music just has that little bit more detail, and I find it to be much better suited for the game. And we even have Batman's theme, and I get that how can you even compare it to the comic, right? There's no music, correct? But even so, you just like it more. And the sound effects just have that more oomph, and in turn it makes every punch feel much more satisfying.
Meanwhile, in Clark Kent's apartment.
Oh, what a nice gesture! What could it be? Oh, a green glowing rock! My only weakness, for some reason!
It's kryptonite, bitch.
Batman, why kick my super rib?
I'm Batman, bitch.
So with better graphics, sound and music, presentation definitely goes to Batman Returns.
Round 3.
Gameplay. The first problem I have with both games is that they are only one player, and beat 'em ups are always better when it's a two-player endeavor. That said, I kinda get why it's just one player. I mean, there are no two Batmans or two Supermans, right? I mean, in the case of Superman, I would have loved to be able to choose from the heroes from the comics, or even from the 4 Supermans from Return of Superman. In the case of Batman, I mean, well, we didn't have Robin in the movie, so I guess could probably be Catwoman? In any case, a two-player option would have been much better for both games, so I'm a bit disappointed on that. Yet in one-player mode, you can play as different Supermans. You can play as
Man of Steel.
No, not that shit. This one.
Man of Steel.
You can also play as
The Man of Tomorrow. The Last Son of Krypton.
and finally,
Superboy. Oh, sorry, jeez. Metropolis Kid.
I like the idea in theory. Problem is that they all play exactly the same. Yes, there's a couple of different animations here and there. They are definitely different sprites, but honestly the differences only extend for the cosmetic rather than the mechanically. At least you don't have that lame 2-button special attack that takes a bit of your health, like in most beat-em ups. Who uses them honestly? I mean, only by accident, right? Do you use that? I always use it by accident, and when you do it you're always like, shit. Batman Returns does have that lame attack, but it also has a screen clearing attack that actually both games have. Both games also share the normal beat 'em up moves that you will see in other beat 'em ups, like punches and grapples. But man, do I love how you can throw people around. It's just fucking satisfying. You can smash them into walls and even destroy the environment. Both games do that very well and I love it. But in Batman's game, you can grab two and smash their heads together. Damn, is that a great move. I just love it. It's just so visceral.
I will remember you. I will remember. I will.
Superman's most iconic ability is arguably flight. So in this game you can actually fly as well. Problem is, there's really nothing for you to do. Sometimes you can find items up there, but there's really nothing for you to do. Sometimes you have to use it to either climb a building or probably take care of the flying enemies, but that's pretty much it. Well, there are shooting stations here as well, and you are flying technically for it, but they are all exactly the same. No difference other than just small cosmetic differences. They are all the same and they are super easy to pass. It's just incredible that there's no variation at all. At least it's a good way to contrast the gameplay. Of course, all of them are exactly the same at the end of the day, but in Batman you have a driving stage as well, but it's only one in the whole game. It's pretty fun, mind you. Batman Returns also tries to break the monotony with 2D stages, in contrast to where you can only move in one plane, making it essentially a platformer. Platforming stages on beat-em ups do not work. This is by far one of the worst parts of the game. I mean, look at the size of your sprite. It's freaking huge. It's impossible not to get hit by stuff. The controls are not very well suited for a platformer. It's just eliminate this. Come on, it's just ridiculous. This don't work. I already talked that in Superman you cannot choose your difficulty level, but you can in Batman. But in that game you have a limited number of continues versus an unlimited number of continues in Superman's game, making it so that if you have enough determination, you can finish the game by sheer repetition. In the other hand though, Batman Returns game make it much more difficult to do because the game is already hard as fuck, and when you lose your lives in your continues, back to the beginning. That said though, Batman's game is much shorter and to me is much better paced. Death and Return of Superman can really drag on, especially when you continue to fight normal humans, which it just really doesn't make any sense to take punches from Superman and be like nothing. Not only that, but the heat vision makes no fucking sense. Look at that, it does no fucking damage. It's like a mosquito bite rather than a powerful heat sink vision. It makes no goddamn sense to use it. Not only because it makes virtually no damage, but also because it has a small delay to execute. And no matter which Superman you use, the result is always the same. What a fucking shame. But the worst thing in my opinion is the hit detection on Superman's game. Let me explain. In most beat-em ups, part of the strategy is to gather as much enemies as possible in just one spot, because that way you can hit them all at the same time, giving you a chance to fight against a lot of numbers. But here, you can't do that. You can only hit one enemy at a time. What the shit is this? I saw myself trying to hit several enemies at the same time and time again to be only knocked back every time. It's just a reflex. This standard that was already set by his predecessors. Why change it?
Meanwhile, in the hall of the living room.
You know what I don't get?
Yeah?
How can people never tell that Clark Kent is Superman?
What do you mean? I wear glasses. Ah, now you can't tell the difference.
Okay, you got me there.
And what about you, You just change your voice.
And a mask.
Not to mention the millions you spend on gear. Don't you think people will notice that the billionaire Bruce Wayne is probably the only one that can afford that in all of Gotham?
At least my video games are always better.
Now in what world would give you that idea?
I'm Batman.
In the end, Batman Returns is a better beat-em up, with a better presentation and a better paced, more satisfying gameplay. That said, both these games are great games. In fact, this Superman game is probably the best Superman game. of them all. Which begs the question, how can you make a great Superman game? I mean, the guy is fucking Superman. A game that would make you feel like Superman would be boring, because you would just play through the whole game, destroying everyone with no retaliation. So I feel that it's difficult to make a good Superman game because of that. In the other hand, Batman, you can certainly make you feel like the real thing, which is why I think he's better suited for video games, and I think history shows that. And so, thanks so much for watching Gokado's Retro Reviews, and hasta la próxima. Hey, before you go, you gotta check these channels that I'm gonna put here in the screen and in the links below. First of all, I had a lot of help with the different voices. We had the voice of Superman that was done by Andrew from A Square Reviews. Check his Left in Laserdisc videos, are fucking hilarious, you're gonna love them. The amazing voice of Batman was done by John, he is a graphic designer and a voice actor as well. You can check him out in the Console Explosion website, and he's gonna have his YouTube channel up and running in the future, as well as his website. We also have the announcer voice done by Nicholas from the Deadly Operative Grunts channel. Check him out over here. And then you have Ian the Historic Nerd. He helped me out with the Superman comic shots. He had this while growing up, but I don't have him anymore, so thank you very much. He has a very nicely put video on the history of Activision. Check it out here. We also have Tyler, the video game hunter. He sent me a picture of his N64 cartridge for Superman 64, which I don't own, and fuck that game. And don't you forget to go and visit the Console Explosion for all your geek and gaming news and shows. Thank you so much for watching, and hasta la próxima.